Welcome back to another day of Bible study. My name is Kevin Young, and I have the privilege of serving here at Christ Table as lead clergy. Now, if you'd like to know more about Christ Table, what we do, who we are, you can visit the URL right there at www.christstable.today. We work primarily among those who are disappointed, disillusioned, disconnected, done with the church, but also many other people find us a helpful resource in addition to their other spiritual organizations and communities as well. And so we are grateful, no matter who you are, where you are, that you are a part of this journey of peace with us. We are spending 32 days looking into the Bible at different places where it talks about peace. And if you'd like to join us on that journey, we have some resources for free that you can take advantage of right there at go.christstable.today/peace. You're going to find a list of all the days of this study as well as the readings that go along with that day. There is also a secondary download there for free that is a curriculum resource that helps you walk through each and every day of the study with a question and an activity and some space each day to do that in. All of those are completely free, no strings attached, no email address necessary, anything whatsoever. We just want to give away as many resources for free, but it does help us whenever you support the ministry by giving there, and would encourage you, really, if you're not a regular donor, to consider doing that at christstable.today to help us continue to bring these resources to you. But another way that you can help out is by getting that free PDF by you can download it, but you can also get a printed version of that PDF. All you have to do whenever you click on the URL right there is click on the button that says Get the Box, and inside this spiritual resource box will be this printed copy of the curriculum as well as several other resources and gifts to help you on this journey as we make our way through this conversation about peace. One more thing that I want to make sure you're aware of, if you're not already, this is in print. It's out on bookshelves in Barnes & Noble. Stop in a Barnes & Noble and pick one of these up for someone else. Pick 2 or 3 of them up for other people. Make sure that you have yours as well. You can find out more information about this at drkevinyoung.com. It tells my story of deconstruction, along with some insight from a pastor on the journey of deconstruction and the tools and methods that I use to help reconstruct my faith in a stronger and more healthier way. Well, today we find ourselves, as we continue on this journey, day 22, we are again in the book of Proverbs. Yesterday we were in the book of Proverbs. Today we are back in the book of Proverbs again. Just a reminder, the book of Proverbs is wisdom. It is kind of fortune cookie, bite-sized sound bites that are in place to help you kind of navigate the way life works best and the way life works under normal circumstances for most people. This is a very different book than a doctrine book, though, like Romans or a book like the Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, or John, where there's a narrative tied together. There really is no narrative here in this book. And while I said yesterday that a good part of this book is kind of an either-or situation, showing one road pitted against an opposite road, the good way, the bad way, the right way, the wrong way. Today, we kind of move into another section of the book of Proverbs that is more kind of descriptive in this section of God in particular. So we're not going to kind of have the back and forth here in this text that we normally have had in other texts in the book of Proverbs in this section. So Proverbs chapter 16, verses 6 through 8. Here we go. Let's read it. Unfailing love and faithfulness make atonement for sin. By fearing the Lord, people avoid evil. When people's lives please the Lord, even their enemies are at peace with them. Better to have little with godliness than to be rich and dishonest. So we do have, even though I said that, we do have a little bit of that kind of juxtaposition of 2 different paths there. Better to have little with godliness than to be rich and dishonest. And we talked about that actually yesterday, right? A little bit about how there is this duality, and somebody who has a deceitful heart and a joyful heart, you can kind of understand whether or not they have a deceitful heart or a joyful heart on the basis of what flows or rolls out of that heart. Here we see a little bit of that as well. Better to have little with godliness than to be rich and dishonest. That in life there are some choices, and maybe the better choice is the one that isn't necessarily the obvious choice in the beginning. Which one would you choose if it were you? Maybe in today's curriculum, write that down in the blank space over there on the left of the page. Which one of these maybe have you chosen in the past? Sometimes we kind of think of ourselves in a very altruistic mindset where we think and see the best of ourselves, even though we might not necessarily choose those things. So maybe it might be easier to reflect on some of the past decisions and situations in our life and say, have I, in moments where I had to choose between having a little, but living in a way that is good, godliness, or having a lot, being rich, but having to attain it in ways that are maybe required me to bend the rules that I might normally follow, or the ethics that those around me, that my faith, that my family, that my own sense of right or wrong, my own morality might say, but I found a way around it so that I could be rich. Which one of these might describe you or define you? And maybe it's been both at different points over your journey, right? So I want to go back though to the beginning here. Unfailing love and faithfulness make atonement for sin. By fearing the Lord, people avoid evil. Now, the fear of the Lord isn't a cowering. It isn't a how we normally think of fear, like terrified. Here in the book of Proverbs, fear is something that is more like awe, reverence. It's when you treat something as being holy or wholly different in a way that matters than you. So by fearing the Lord, by having awe, by having respect, by giving honor or deference to God, people avoid evil. Remember, Proverbs speaks in absolutes, but we have to understand that it doesn't always absolutely work that way. When people's lives please the Lord, even their enemies are at peace with them. So we're talking about peace here, and what are some things that we can get out of this? Well, the first thing that I kind of want to point out here is something that tends to be across the board in the text of Scripture, and that is this idea of love and faithfulness. Love and faithfulness are kind of this classic pair of words that describe God's relationship to us, Yahweh, God. Love and faithfulness. Throughout the pages of Scripture, Hebrew text, New Testament, you will continually see this idea of love being something that describes not only God, but God's relationship to us, but also faithfulness, that God is faithful to his children, that God is faithful to those who are his followers, that God is faithful even to humanity, to the world, and in offering a way of redemption, salvation, renewal for all. These things are tied together oftentimes. God is spoken of as being both loving and faithful. So it's this pair that we see coming up over and again in texts about God, but not just God, but about God's relationship to us. Why is that important? Well, that's important because if this is God's relationship to us, then it kind of goes without saying that this is something of an example of, I believe, God's intent for us to be in relationship with other people. He's setting the stage. He's giving us a model for how we are to interact with the world, with those around us. Love and faithfulness. I want you to be loving and faithful to others. And so I'm going to model that. I'm going to give you an example of that by being loving and faithful to you. And then Jesus shows up and lives that out. Love and faithfulness. Why? Because the world works better in this way. Humanity functions closer to its original design and intent in this way. Love and faithfulness. The other thing that we notice here in this verse, and let's just go ahead and go back to that verse. Let me pull it back up here one more time. Unfailing love and faithfulness, see, there it is, make atonement for sin. By fearing the Lord, by having an awe of God, by seeing this love and faithfulness from God, people tend to avoid evil or avoid bad things. See how things are working there? God is living, is the embodiment of both love and faithfulness. And so by respecting God, by living in this way, by mirroring this, people avoid evil, a hard road, disaster. Proverbs always kind of speaks in these concrete, extreme words because it's fortune cookie wisdom, right? You're trying to say as much as is possible within a few words, within a memorable sentence or two. Verse 7, when people's lives please the Lord, even their enemies are at peace with them. When people's lives please the Lord, even their enemies are at peace with them. Okay, so please the Lord, even people's enemies are at peace with them. Peace with God, peace with others. If you please the Lord, if the Lord is, for lack of a way of putting it, happy with you, going to be at peace with God. If your parents are pleased with you, there's going to be peace. If your boss is pleased with you, if your employees are pleased with you, if your customers are pleased with you, if your children are pleased with you, there's going to be peace. If your neighbors are pleased with you, there's going to be peace. Peace with God overflows into peace with others. This is what the verse is saying here in verse 7. When people's lives please the Lord, whenever the way you live and the way you walk are pleasing to God, there will be peace, and even your enemies will be at peace with you. Peace with God, peace with others. Reflect on that for just a moment. What is the temperature on your peace with God? And what is the temperature on your peace with others? Are they similar? Is there a similar level of peace or unrest there? If it's very hard to kind of think right now how things are with you, maybe think back a month or two ago, a year ago, a few years ago. Level of peace with God, level of peace with others. Were they dramatically different or were they similar? Peace with God, peace with others. That's what this verse in Proverbs says. So what's our activity for today? Well, our activity for today is to simply make a list of the words, places, people, and events that make you think of peace, things that bring you peace or make you think of peace or put you at peace. What are those things? Words, peaceful words, words that just bring you comfort, places you visit, that you visited, that you go to regularly, that you would like to visit because you think it might bring you peace. People, names of people who make you think of peace. Events, things that you attend. What are those things? Make a list today, and that is our activity as we continue on day 22 of this journey through peace. And a reminder that if you would like the study materials in order to follow along the entire time with us as we make this journey, then visit the URL that is right there in front of me, go.christstable.today/